Hello, everyone. Welcome to the reboot of What If I Was in My Hero Academia. Uh, but this time I will be Quirkless. If you watched my Pokemon as a Brawler Episode 0, you will know how this reincarnation thing happens. So we're skipping over that. Obviously, I went through the same pre-4-year-old life, except that it's in My Hero Academia, so you know, quirks and whatever. My parents' names are Lisa Mori and Hiroshi Mori. And my name is Miwa Mori, and I am a female. My parents' quirks are Shockwave and Hard Light. Today is the day in which I go to the Quirk doctor, and my test is a short while after Izuku's. And, similar to Izuku's, when I go, I discover I'm quirkless. But unlike most kids who were told they are quirkless, I didn't really seem down, let alone truly react to the answer. My parents look at me to see my reaction, expecting me to be in tears, but I wasn't really showing much reaction to what I heard. After we all go home, my parents begin discussing what they should do now, while I go out and begin training my body. I began working on the beach that Deku cleaned, but junk just continues to pile up there. It always seemed like it was just going to go back to how it was no matter what I did. Which I guess is good in terms of the training that Midoriya would have to endure to gain One for All. Which he will be getting, after all, just because I will remain quirkless doesn't mean that he has to. Eventually, I come across Izuku, Bakugo, and his cronies, and they're all heading into the forest to do the same thing they did when Bakugo fell off the log. I began watching them from the trees, and after events happened, Bakugo and his cronies left Deku, and I went down to him and helped him up, which caused him to tear up a small bit, but thanked me. And he introduces himself. My name's Izuku Midoriya. What's yours? In a quietish voice, I reply, Miwa Mori. Nice to meet you, Midoriya. I give him a small smile, the best one I can conjure with my limited control over it. Him and I exit the forest, and he begins to head home, but not until we set up a place to meet with each other again. Once I reach home, my parents greet me, and then my mother goes to make lunch, and my father watches the news. I go and get on my computer and listen to some music while I write down a story. The next day comes around, and like usual, I leave early in the morning to do some cleaning of the beach, and see that it's gotten even worse. So I get to cleaning and end up getting it to at least 1/4 of the way clean, but I can already see more things piling up as I get ready to leave back home. On my way, I pass by the park, and then hearing Midoriya's voice, Stop it, Kat-chan, you're hurting them! In which I immediately head over there. I don't step in, as this needs to happen. After all, just because I am his friend doesn't mean that the following canon events shouldn't happen, since they are what builds character for both of them. Since Bakugo needs his ego to get the reality check, and Deku needs the rough times for strengthening his resolve to be a hero. I just need to be there for him to make sure that I keep his mind out of the gutter, and that he gets stuck in... to make sure that I keep his mind out of the gutter that he gets stuck in for a while when Bakugo does his signature saying that gets a lot of fans disliking him. After the beating happens, a few minutes pass, and I finally head over him. Seeming like I just got there, I keep up the lie by saying, Oh no, are you alright? He didn't hurt you that much, right? to which I get a simple, "I'm fine." In my head, I think, it's alright. You just have to keep this up for a while longer. Soon you'll be able to be genuine. You just have to keep him in the dark about your situation. I help him up off the ground, and then we have fun at the park. Enjoying myself with him, I begin laughing. It's an odd feeling being female instead of male. Half the time I forget that I'm not a boy. Never would I need to go to the bathroom, luckily. But whenever I wake up, I still half expect to be in my original body again, and that this was all a fever dream. And then I could be happy about having a dream. Eventually the time comes around when we both have to head home. We say our goodbyes and part ways, and I begin to dwell on the thoughts I've been mulling over in my head for the past week. How should I go about UA? After all, training is nice and all, but I still don't have a quirk to use, so I need some equipment to use, but nothing too dangerous, since I need to be able to use it against classmates and other school members, let alone villains. That's immediately when it clicks for me. I was always interested in the concept of samurais, even before I got reincarnated. So I can learn how to use guns, spears, bows, and katanas for combat. And of course I won't be using the real deal unless it's against rubble or non-living objects. As for the spear, I'd be using a staff similar to Yaoyorozu's in cases in which I am fighting actual people. As I enter the house, I'm immediately bombarded with a glorious scent. I enter the kitchen to see several sushi rolls of several meats and other ingredients. I recently learned the likes and dislikes of this body. I'm working on getting a bit more control over them so that the dislikes aren't so silly. I'm glad that my parents were understanding of my current dislikes. I told them in the past what I've disliked from what I've tried, but promised them that I'd get to working on improving what I will eat. They were oddly a bit sad when I said that last bit, but that quickly went away. My assumption is that they feel I'm growing too fast for them, since I'm a lot more mature than most kids my age. I'm still childish and like a kid sometimes, but there are moments where I seem a bit too much like a near adult, especially since I'm still a 4-year-old. Yeah, I sometimes forget that I am a wee little girl. This is why I'm glad I still have the 4-year-old side kick in for most of the day while I work through things in my head. Back to the present. Me and my parents sit down at the table and then bow our heads and close our eyes. Itadakimasu, we all say before we all begin to enjoy the dinner that was made. As I savor the taste of my sushi roll, I hear my mom ask me a question. Hey Miwa, what do you plan on being in the future? After all, you've been outside a lot recently. Well, I reply after finishing the part of the roll in my mouth, I plan to attempt becoming a hero, since it never hurts to try, especially if you put effort into it like I have and will. But should that not work, probably a hero, since then I can help others reach their potential and get some more possible heroes into the mix of people in this society. My parents look at each other and then nod. You know, Miwa, we're glad that you at least have a backup plan should the hero business not work out. That's better than most would have, but I'm glad that your hopes to become a hero weren't the slightest bit dashed when you heard what you did that day. We're sorry that you couldn't have been born with a quirk, Dad. I never needed a quirk to be helpful in this society. In fact, I was prepared for in case I wouldn't get a quirk. My parents look at each other again, then they look at me and begin to remember how I wasn't devastated like most kids hearing that news would have been, and smile at my readiness for such an outcome. We're glad to hear that. since, as you probably know, most kids would have been devastated hearing such words. I hugged my parents and they hugged me back. I'm glad that you guys were never apprehensive about my dream to become a hero. You guys really are the best parents I could ask for. I say with small tears building up in my eyes. We stay like that for a little longer, before we go back to eating our sushi with smiles on our faces. Today is my first day of kindergarten, and as such I'm minorly nervous and excited. I'm nervous because of what their opinions of me might be, but I'm excited because I get to be with my friend and MHA main character, Midoriya. But nonetheless, I prepare my things to go to kindergarten. The time comes and I get up out of bed and get dressed, along with doing everything else to get ready. Then, my parents and I drive to the kindergarten. My parents wish me luck and I nod as I get out of the car and walk to the classroom. Before I enter the room, I hear the teachers talking. Then, class, today we're going to be getting a new student, so please make them feel welcomed since we don't want to make it a bad impression for them. After hearing the male teacher finish saying this, I open the door and peek my head inside. I look around for Izuku, and then I meet his eyes, and he meets mine. I walk into the classroom and to the front of the room, in which the female teacher says, "Can you introduce yourself to the class so that everyone knows who you are?" "Okay," I say, then let out a sigh. "My name is Miwa Mori. I hope you can accept me as a new classmate." Everyone looks at me with a bit of skepticism, and in the teacher's case, confusion at how I introduced myself. Since I had decided to conveniently leave out mentioning my quirk, that they assumed I probably had, Bakugo being Bakugo assumed that my quirk was weak, and that's why I didn't want to mention it. No one, other than my parents and the Quirk doctor, knows I'm Quirkless. Not even Midoriya. But anyways, the teacher tells me to join the rest of the group in sitting down, and then look at me perplexed when I sit down next to Midoriya. But continue with what they were planning on teaching. And just like that, several hours go by, with the recess in between, but I just spent it with Midoriya. After school was over, we walked towards our homes together, chatting on the way there. At least until Midoriya pops the question I assume must have been on his mind the entire time since we first met. "Hey, Miwa. So I've been wondering about this for a while, since I've never seen you use it or even heard you mention it before, but what is your quirk?" I looked at him and then around us. He noticed that my eyes grew ever slightly duller than before. And so he assumed that he offended me, and began trying to stammer out an apology, but I interrupted him with my answer. "I don't have one. I don't need one either." He looked at me with shock, then began to contemplate my answer. "I was hoping that I could keep that fact a secret from you for a little while longer, mostly because of who I was expecting to be listening to for that answer. Isn't that right, Bakugo?" I look behind us to see Bakugo and his cronies come out from hiding. "So you're quirkless, huh? Just like that useless Deku." "Heh, knew something about you. Knew something about you that felt similar to him." "Oh, and let me guess, you're gonna try and treat me like you treat him, right? I can't believe that you would feel attacked enough by someone quirkless to try and hurt them, just to make yourself feel better about yourself, Bakugo." "Huh? What the hell are you on about?" "First off, watch your language. Second off, I've seen that look in your eyes whenever you attack Midoriya. The look of someone who was feeling inferior, and so they attacked them to feel superior." He looks at me with a look that says he's eager to explode me, but also fear at how easily he was read by me. Now then, Bakugo, if you'll excuse us, we will be heading home, since I have no interest in fighting you and giving you exactly what you want. As I begin to walk away, I hear the sudden shift in Bakugo's clothing and dodge out of the way right as he lunges for where I was standing. Then we lock eyes just before he rams face first into the pavement. His cronies are about to start laughing at the scene when both Bakugo and I turn and glare at them, which immediately causes them to freeze. I look at Bakugo and say, I'm only going to say this once, and this time a lot less kindly. I'm not going to waste my time and energy on you to let you live up to your fantasies of being the strongest hero in the world. Because first off, the very thing you just did is the exact opposite of what a hero would do. And second off, you're not the strongest. You're just on a power trip because you've got explosives coming out of your hands that you see as the strongest thing. How about you strive to be like All Might by being an actually helpful hero instead of one only in it for the fame and money? I'll leave this to float around in your head and have you think about this. I can only hope that you learn to do the right thing. Come on, Izuku. With that, Izuku and I walk away to our houses again, but this time in silence. We split paths to go to our respective housing districts, and I reach home just in time to hear my mom say, "Dinner's ready to be eaten now. I just hope that she comes back soon." In which I open the door and see my dad is working on something with hard and light tools. This, including a screwdriver, a wrench, a welder, and a wire cutter. He hasn't quite noticed the fact that I have come into the house, and is instead focused on creating something. What it is, I'm not entirely sure, but he's been working on it for the past 5 days. Mom comes out of the kitchen, and then notices me looking at Dad, in which she says, "Welcome home, dear. I just finished making dinner." At that, he looks up and says hello to me as well. He sits still for a moment before putting down his tools and getting up to get dinner. Mom looks at me thankfully. I can only assume because she needed something to get his attention away from it. As we enter the kitchen, my nose finally gets filled with the scent of my favorite food. Now I can't wait to eat, I say with a large smile on my face. They look at me happily. It seemed they noticed the mood I was in. Itadakimasu. As we begin to eat the curry rice, my mom asks me, "Hey dear, how was your first day of kindergarten?" There was a clear tone of concern dripping from her voice. "It was good, Mom. It had nothing to do with my mood earlier. It was the fact that my friend's bully was trying to do the same with me that he does Midoriya once he found out I didn't have a quirk." "How did he learn about it?" my mom asked. "He was listening to my conversation with Midoriya when we were walking home." And that is where I will be leaving off episode 1. Thank you for listening to the video, and I hope that you can forgive me for taking this long to post a video. And I also hope that you're willing to wait for me to finish writing the next episode to my Pokemon Brawlers series. Now then, I would like to say that I will probably be taking a short break from writing the script for the next video because I need some time to recuperate. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.